Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so I just got off the phone with my boy T. We're having a conversation about Jimmy Butler. He has the same idea that I have. It's just not necessarily possible to bring Jimmy to the Lakers, but like the dog is missing from this basketball team. This is what we talk about all the time. They don't have that guy, as I said yesterday in my analogy, who's going to start a fight if somebody kicks Anthony Davis in the balls. That player's not here. You bring Jimmy to that team, and suddenly you have somebody that, in theory, should be able to provide that dynamic. And not only that, but another superstar dynamic player. Now, the thing is, the question is, are you willing to move Austin Reeves? If you were to try to make a deal like that, because I don't think Miami's going to be willing to make a move like that unless a desirable piece is in place. You got to move Jimmy Butler. I'm probably going to want to take back some stuff that you don't want to give up. That's just what it is. Jimmy's not on a horrible contract or anything like that. He's a really good player. So what are you willing to give up? Are you going to give me Dalton Connect? Are you going to give me Austin Reeves? Maybe I just ask for both of them. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. So it's like, for me, I understand that Austin's contract is desirable to keep all over the league. You definitely want that contract. He's not making a whole lot of money. He's going to give you bang for your buck. Even if he doesn't play up to the level of the contract, he's still somebody that's a connective piece, making other people better. So long as you keep defensive players around him, you're going to be pretty good. Question is, are we willing to move him for a piece like Jimmy? Or are we unwilling to move him no matter what? Because that's the question I have for the Lakers. There are certain things that you are probably wise for moving on from if it's going to bring you back something that's going to be a significant upgrade. And I don't know if that's something the Lakers are willing to do or not. It's not something that I've been on board with up until this point. But for the circumstances the Lakers are facing, for which everybody wants those 2 picks that the Lakers have, and they don't want to give them up, you're going to have to add something in that you probably don't want to give up in place of those picks in order to get back something you really want, or dare I say really need. This is the problem with the Lakers. We want to have our cake and eat it too. You can't have everything. Either you're going to give yourself an opportunity to move on from those picks and bring yourself the talent necessary to help you win, or you're going to start partnering with pieces like Austin Reeves and Dalton Connect that you really like to bring yourself those pieces so that you don't. It's one or the other, man. And for me, I mean, standing still can make some sense based on what it is we're assessing. But for those who want to make moves, that's what's in the way. And if I'm being completely honest with you, is it the reluctance to move stuff that we really would rather not, and the need for us to do so in order to get back stuff we really want. So that's what I'm telling everybody, man. It's a tough spot. If I'm the GM, I don't know that I do anything, to be honest with you, based on our circumstances. How much, what's going to cost what, and et cetera, all those type of conversations. Make it so that you don't really want to do too much. But at the same time, I understand the pressure that the Lakers are under. And in that space, it may be in your best interest to make a move or two. It may be in your best interest to just basically move on from something that maybe you desperately don't want to move on from. It's a tough situation. I don't blame anybody for not wanting to do that. Just like I don't blame anybody for being eager to do that, because you can really get back something really good if you do that. But what is it going to be? You know, that's what it really comes down to. The question is what is it going to be? Because if the Los Angeles Lakers don't make the right decision in this situation, then we're certain we're not good enough. We certainly don't have that dog in place. We're certain that we're a basketball team that's going to be struggling one way or another. And for some, that's unacceptable. You know, that's really what it comes down to. Obviously, I have an opinion in the situation that has other things into account than us being bad this year. And I made that opinion many times on this channel. I think there are things in our future that we can really hurt if we do certain things that I may have suggested in this video, like moving Austin Reeves and Dalton Connect. That hurts your future. But it's not about me presenting my opinion or what I think is most wise. It's more so expressing to you guys what I think is necessary for us to get what we need if we're intentional on making this particular team better, enough to win a championship and enough to kind of compete in the Western Conference. And I'm not certain that we're in that space right now. In fact, I'm pretty damn certain we're not. And so that's really all it is. I definitely agree with T. Type of ingredient the Lakers need is a Jimmy Butler-like piece. Another superstar level player with some dog in him. I've also made the argument that I don't think he's the right ingredient as it pertains to being next to Bron and AD. With some of the personality traits that they have versus his, it could be a bit of a strain dynamically. You know, I think that could potentially be a little volatile. Jimmy probably get tired of them rather quickly, in my opinion. These are things that I really genuinely think. So like I said, I'm not here to necessarily sway someone else's opinion with this particular video. You can check out some of my previous videos and hear me do that. But as it pertains to just laying out what it is that I see there, this is what's going to be required for you to make a trade like that. You're going to have to be willing to move on from some stuff you don't want to move on from. And that's what it really comes down to. And a lot of people, you know, feel very strongly about keeping Austin. I've heard some people be very strongly about moving him. But I can tell you, that's really the holdup on a lot of trades. That's the holdup. His contract is favorable. His play, his image, all of that stuff is really favorable to the Lakers. I think they see a future with him. You know, he's a smart player. He's a helpful player in a lot of different offensive ways. He rebounds well. It's a lot of good to him. And I think that's why people would probably want him involved in any trade that you would make to get back anything really good. Or you can give up them 2 picks. Or you can throw in all of it. If you go up against the wrong GM, he's going to want you to throw in all of it. So it's like, that's the problem the Lakers are dealing with right now in making trades. And that's why I don't expect anything gets done, to be honest with you. That's why I don't expect anything to get done. Because there's a lot of different people who are saying, oh, the Lakers can do this, and this. And if they do this, then they're going to have that. I don't think they're going to be as comfortable moving on from what is required in order to get anything good back. Unless they just love it as much as they love Austin Reeves, you know? And I just don't anticipate anybody in this environment being willing to do anything like that just to help the Lakers out. I don't see that coming. I'll just be honest with you. I don't see that coming. Now, maybe they would be. Maybe they would be, you know what I'm saying? But I don't see it. And so that's what I'm here to tell people. I think Jimmy Butler is more than worth what it is that we would otherwise offer in that regard. But is that a good situation for the LA Lakers? You know, not if they don't want to give up what it is that they often going to cost to make it happen. That's the thing, you know. I think your team immediately improves if you bring in Jimmy Butler, just in a nutshell. Like, just in general, bringing Bron, AD, and Jimmy together, you're definitely better on the basketball floor. Obviously, it depends a lot on what it is you're giving up to get him, but within reason. Saying, you know, moving on from Austin and D'Lo and Rui and bringing back Jimmy, you probably are a better team. But how long is it going to be before you're exposed as a shallow team in that situation? Because Jimmy's not the best argument to stay healthy. Bron, of course, in his circumstances. AD, we know of the history there. So it's like, how long do you think you'll have all 3 of them on the floor at the same time? Or will it be a situation like a lot of trios in the past where you never see them on the floor at the same time? Like, this is something the Lakers have to be very honest about if they decide to do something like that. You know, injury issues and how that exposes your lack of depth. And so, yeah, man, I just want the Lakers to make the next move their best move, you know. I don't want to hold on to things irrationally or let go of things irrationally just the same. If a good deal comes about that allows for us to improve our basketball team and improve our value of what it is that we have, you know, it might be the move to make a trade like that. And that's what I want to say. I don't know what's right. You know, you can try something and it may not work. But as it pertains to our situation, we're on the verge of potentially triggering a rebuild. That's what it seems like to me. Within the next 2 years or even less, depending, we could be triggering a rebuild. So I think it's worth asking the question, are we sure that's what we want to do? You know, obviously that's a devil's advocate kind of question for this channel, but it's worth asking. Are we sure that's what we want to do? Are we sure we can't do something that we're not going to regret that ultimately give us an opportunity to win a championship? I think it's worth asking. You know what I mean? And so that's what I want people to hear me say. And, you know, I obviously want the Lakers to be good, but I also want us to be good long term. And if we're going to do anything that's going to make it so that we're not able to be, it doesn't seem worth it to me. That don't seem worth it to me. But, you know, there are scenarios where you make a trade and bring in a guy like Jimmy Butler. And then when it's time for you to trigger your rebuild, you have any more valuable stuff to trade to get picks. Maybe you can't get a pick for Rui Hachimura, Austin Reeves, you know what I mean? Combination of those guys. If you decide to rebuild, maybe you can't get a pick for them. But maybe you can get a couple picks for what you have when you move in Jimmy Butler, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis. When you're trying to trigger your rebuild, you know, you don't know. You don't know. So that's one thing that really was going through my head when we were having these rumors about Trae Young. It's like, and I made the argument that it probably wasn't the best bet, given the fact that if Bron and AD go down, Trae Young would be the only one running around that has any talent, and probably end up having him being an injury risk because of that, and thus putting yourself in a position to not be able to retrade him for anything because you lost value on him while he was in the uniform. And that scenario is always in my head as we can think about these things, but assuming everything goes right, obviously Trae Young being traded away in a rebuilding situation is going to net you significantly more than the combination of the stuff that it took to get him being moved in separate deals or being moved in one deal to get a rebuilding process started. Because put it like this, what team you know is going to have future first-round picks willing to take our good contract role players for first-rounders that help us start our rebuild? You're going to have a hard time making that sell to a team that's trying to get better. You know, a team like San Antonio, you think they're going to be willing to take Rui, Austin, and D'Lo, just by example, for 3 first-round picks or 2 first-round picks? The answer is, of course not. No, they're not going to do that. But if you had Trae Young on tab and you offered him Trae Young, now you find yourself in a potential bidding situation where several teams would be trying to get Trae Young, and as a result, you're probably going to get a lot for Trae Young, maybe even more than you're supposed to. As to where those individual pieces, you can't shop them up that value. You can't shop them up to make that kind of return come your way. So that's what I'm saying. I think the Lakers might want to consider that in regards to triggering a rebuild. Weigh that option just as much as you would weigh any other, is to say to yourself, if I have 3 stars in place and I trigger my rebuild, I may be able to start something real as it pertains to getting back a whole lot. Because that's really what it's about. You look at the Utah Jazz and what they were able to upstart their rebuild with. Just by trading Rudy Gobert, they were able to get like 2 stars worth of stuff. And Rudy Gobert ain't no superstar, but they were able to find a patsy to get that done. Now, if they were sitting on Rui Hachimura and D'Lo and Vanderbilt, or something, you think they'd be able to turn all that stuff into what they got for Rudy Gobert? No, they could not. It's that they had a star like that to trade that ultimately got them that type of return. So consolidation when you're moving forward, as it pertains to multiple pieces on good contracts that are role players, makes a lot more sense when you're trying to go forward to win something. When you're looking to have 1 year left before you start your rebuild, the more valuable stuff you have, in theory, the better your return to restart your rebuild. So that's not a new thought. I think it's a risky thought, but at the end of the day, it probably makes a lot more sense to me at this moment when we're talking about being 1 year away from a rebuild, 2 years away from a rebuild. You want stuff that's valuable. You want stuff that's very valuable. Start your process. And so that's something that I think Lakers need to be honest about. If you want to move forward with Austin Reeves as a part of your rebuild, then the likelihood that I'm going to opt to keep him makes more sense to me. But if I plan on trading him when AD and Bron are moving on, if I can turn him into a piece that's more valuable than that, that makes a lot more sense to me. You see what I'm saying? It's all about what you want to do with your pieces. That's what it really comes down to. What do you want to do? Because I tell you right now, the last thing you want to do is move Austin Reeves when it's time to rebuild and get like 2 second-round picks or 3 second-round picks for him. That ain't. If you could make him a part of a big trade that brings you a star, it's worth it. And that's what I'm saying to everybody, man. It's absolutely worth it to do that. But at the same time, if it's not going to bring you what you need, then, you know, it's probably best to just hold on to it. You know what I mean? You don't just move Austin Reeves just to be moving it. It's all about bringing back that massive wealth piece, that massive wealth draw that you can flip for like 2-3 first rounders. You know what I mean? So this is the type of stuff we talk about when we consider triggering a rebuild. When you know that you only got 2 years left on the win now timeline and you're about to go to scraps. Having all these consolidated nice contracts on players that are like 26, 27 years of age is cool, but if their upside can't create a bidding war, maybe it'd be best to slap 2 or 3 of them together, bring you a player that ultimately will. Maybe it's best. But just the same, that risk that they get hurt then becomes what you're weighing at that point. So I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe the market reads differently than what it is I just described. Maybe that's not what that actually equates to. I don't know. But in my mind's eye, that seems to make sense to me, especially if you're bringing in a massive star level player like Jimmy or Trae Young or somebody like that. It looks that way to me. So that's what I want to say. You know, a team that's lacking in a lot of value has to ask the type of questions like, does it make sense to have massive value consolidated into multiple pieces? Does it make sense to do that? If I trade all 4 of these quarters, can I somehow get back a bunch of stuff that's going to balloon? It's only so many roster spots that I'm going to have any damn way, right? When you really consider it. It's not like I'm bringing the team back 30 roster spots so that, you know, if I can give myself so many opportunities at something being great, I can just load my team up with a bunch of players that have potential. That's not necessarily what you got going on. So, you know, these are things that we really have to ask our franchise to analyze and be right about when it's time to make a trade, man. Be right about this type of stuff. Be absolutely right about this type of stuff. So, yeah, man, it's tough, man. It's tough. I wouldn't want to be in that situation. I wouldn't want to be the team that has a win now timeline that has to trigger a rebuild with a player like LeBron James looking to retire in my uniform so I can't capture value for him. You know what I mean? Because in that situation, it may make even more sense to have a big level star-like player so that he can bring you that big time return that you're ultimately not going to get for LeBron James when he retires. These are the type of things that you have to like. You know what I mean? If I only have one star level piece to trade in the event that I'm triggering my rebuild, then I probably don't have enough to actually trigger a rebuild. It would probably be in my best interest to let LeBron retire, keep AD, and try to move forward in testing free agency to hopefully you can get somebody like, you know, some free agent to come sign with you. That makes more sense to me than trading AD for a bunch of first round picks that coming from some random team and then not having LeBron James capture any value whatsoever. We got a bunch of roster spots filled with players that are not very good and some okay players and a few picks for which we likely can't retrade for more first round picks to further our rebuilding process. So it's like, and you've mortgaged your picks in certain years, so it's even more difficult to trigger your rebuild properly. You see what I'm saying? It's very layered. It's not simple. It's not simple. Capturing value for LeBron James might make it so that a lot of those headaches are eased, but doing so means that you're starting your rebuild earlier, and that could also hurt your value in the sense that you don't have your pick for this year. So your team's going to suck. And if your team sucks, what's on the team is going to lose value even further, just off the strength of it losing. So that it's, you know, you're hurting yourself in some ways that maybe you can't foresee in that situation. So it gets a little tricky, man. And so that's what I'm trying to get people to understand. We want to trigger our rebuild at the right time. We want to have enough valuable stuff, healthy stuff, to trade at that point. And if you're able to have all of that work in your favor, you got a really good team set up to get yourself all types of young players, to have free agency money to give to somebody who want to sign with you, to be able to have the flexibility to make trades from there. All of these things got to be set up on the board properly, man. It ain't just giving stuff away and starting over and that's it. This stuff needs to be assessed. And so, yeah, that's what the conversation with T brought me to, man. We've been talking a lot about this type of thing today, with LeBron James taking his leave of absence, with Bronny James eating up a roster spot for the next 4 years on contract. With a couple of players on our team like Gabe Vincent, negative asset. Guys got player options that are just going to kind of just be here for right now. Guys like Vanderbilt, not going to be making up any value anytime soon unless we can get him back from ridiculously long injury hiatuses to come back to being better than he's ever been, which is just not realistic. And which is why, for me, it's more important for my rebuild to get rid of that stuff. Gabe Vincent and Vanderbilt, I'm trying to move both of those contracts immediately. If I can get those off my books, it sets up everything else to be reasonably valuable. Reasonably valuable. But as long as those two dead contracts are sitting on your books for multiple years, you're stuck with them whether you rebuild or not, because nobody's going to take that crap off from your hands without you giving up something you have no business giving up to do so. So the sooner we're able to relieve ourselves of that burden, those burdens, the better our rebuilding possibilities look to me. And so that's what I want people to understand. You can move AD for picks, you can move LeBron if he will allow it, and you're still stuck with Gabe Vincent, you're still stuck with Vanderbilt, you're still stuck with Cam Reddish in the opt-in. Can't trade him for nothing, you're going to lose him for nothing. Same thing with some of these other players, you're just stuck with them, man.
So much shit.
And so how can you make up the difference in that value when those are such important financial slots on your team? That's what it really comes down to, such important financial slots. That Vanderbilt contract should be a helpful piece that's a starter in this league. It's the same thing we said about our mid-level exception that we gave away to Gabe Vincent and Kendrick Nunn. Like, those are supposed to be capable basketball players eating up those financial spots on our books. Every single time we give the mid-level exception away to somebody, it goes somewhere it has no business going, to a player that can't help us year in, year out. It's part of why your team hasn't been very good enough to win a championship as of late, because of that particular mistake consistently being made over and over and over again. You know what I mean? Got $15 million going to dead weight there, $20 million going to dead weight there for multiple years. Like, nah, that needs to be a valuable, capable player making that particular part of our money situation. So it takes me back to what we were talking about yesterday. Are we sure the people in place are the people we want doing the rebuild, when these are the mistakes they keep consistently making? It ain't as simple as just a move star player and everything's in place. Are the people in place right for all of these different things that we're talking about? You can move LeBron James and free yourself of the cloud that comes with his politics. But if you still got people assessing things the wrong way and willing to give money to guys that can't help you, you're still going to not be a very good team. In fact, it's going to be a lot worse because you don't have LeBron James now. And you got this type of stuff going on. So that's what I'm telling people, man. You trigger your rebuild the wrong way and your team's going to suck. Not just not good enough to win a championship like we are right now, but like really like hard to watch. And that is not the problem that Laker fans are dealing with right now. They need to be appreciative of the understanding that this can become significantly worse if we start doing things even further the wrong way. So, salute the Kobe minute. That's my thought on that. I trust that we have an advantageous position with our market to maybe pull ourselves out of holes with free agency possibilities, and maybe other franchises don't have. This is much more sensitive for some of them to not get all of this wrong. But just the same, we're in this environment, and we'd be wise to play these games properly ourselves. And that's what it is, man. And that's what my channel's here to help people understand what I see there. And I guess that's pretty much what I have to say. My name is BDO44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.